If you want to win your fantasy league, it is going to take effort on behalf of every single last one of you. That is my lecture for the day. I'm done. Lauren Shehadi, Jamey Eisenberg.
Professor Shehadi?
You are the professor. They are your students.
Wow.
Are you ready to teach?
I guess so.
All right, let's talk fantasy hoops. Let's talk about guys that are injured that could come back as soon as this weekend. Paul Pierce doesn't seem to be too worried about his thumb. Should we be?
Well, I think we should be, but it sounds like he's going to be okay. You take a look at some of the players on this list. You look at the forwards, the guards, and some of the centers that are missing. I think you'll see some of these players potentially come back prior to the next scoring period, so that's something to keep an eye on. We're taping this as of Friday, so potentially Friday, Saturday, Sunday, these players could come back before you set your lineup on Monday. When you talk about Paul Pierce, Tim Duncan, and Ben Wallace, these are three key fantasy players coming into the rest of the season. Pierce is somebody to keep an eye on because of the thumb problems. You see what's happening with Kevin Garnett. As we've told you, Boston is looking toward the playoffs. Same thing with San Antonio, looking toward the playoffs. They're going to be cautious with Pierce. The Spurs are going to be cautious with Tim Duncan. They may not risk having these guys play when they're not 100%. So that's something to keep in mind when you set your lineup. And when we talk about Ben Wallace, broken leg, out 4 to 6 weeks. Terrible injury for the Cavs. Could open the door for Anderson Varejao to maybe play more of a role. He's worth picking up maybe at this point in deeper leagues. But Ben Wallace, not a huge fantasy player, but still somebody that's been a #2 fantasy center. So he's going to be out now for at least a month.
And he said, I'm 34 years old. I really don't need to be breaking bones. Of course, a setback for him. All right, let's segue into a guy who has returned from an injury almost seamlessly, and that's TYSON Chandler. Double-double doesn't matter, right?
Yeah, not only the injury, but the trade. Talking about the Hornets getting rid of TYSON Chandler, there's no better motivation than getting traded, having that trade rescinded, and then coming back to your former team sort of saying, I have to come back, I have to play a bigger role, I have to step up my game, and that's what he's done. 2 double-doubles in his first 2 games back, really showing the type of player that he was a year ago when he was really an emerging fantasy option, became a #1 fantasy center. A lot of fantasy owners drafted him this year to be a #1 fantasy center. You took him sort of the second tier, even third tier of centers. He's been playing as a #2 guy, not even playing in certain leagues, but now that the way he's stepping up his game, definitely time to start him, and hopefully this continues.
What about ANDRIS? Let's head out west for a second to Golden State. He himself says he's not going to be 100%. He's not playing 100%. If he was in the playoffs, it'd be a different story. Do we play him?
That's the thing. I think you got to be careful with a guy like BIEDRINS. Talking about a player who didn't really miss a lot of time in his career with injuries and now dealing with this ankle problem. The good thing for him is that Ronnie Turgeoff, the backup center for the Warriors, also injured. So that may help BIEDRINS get back in the lineup and start playing a little bit more like we're accustomed to seeing. But the thing to keep in mind with the Warriors, and not just BIEDRINS, you got to look at all of the Warriors going forward. Guys like Corey Maggette, guys like Steven Jackson, Monta Ellis, the injured players, Jamal Crawford. Jamal Crawford's really the guy that's it's starting with now. Don Nelson has said he's going to start to rest his veteran players. He's going to give some of the younger players a little bit more time to get in there. So that could play a role when looking at some of these players. So the fact that BIEDRINS not 100% and Don Nelson looking to sort of give some younger guys a little bit bigger role, that could lead to sitting BIEDRINS. That's what I would do this week.
All right, he'll need to build up strength again. Jamey, when I pass your desk in the office, you and the other fantasy guys, you guys are not fooling around. You guys are studying the trends of players, and when you see a hot player like Luis SCOLA, you're all about it, and that's where you are right now.
That's very good. You talk about a hot player. Luis SCOLA had 5 straight double-doubles. So you look at a player who's really stepping up his game as the season comes toward an end, really playing at a high level right now. You look at the Houston Rockets and sort of what they've become now that Tracy McGrady's out for the season with the microfracture surgery. It's Yao Ming and then sort of who's going to step up. Well, Luis SCOLA has stepped up his game. You've seen Ron Artest, which you'll also find is one of our starting options this week, step up his game. You've seen Von Wafer, Aaron Brooks, some of the lesser-known players, Shane Battier, the complementary players for Houston really take it to the next level, and Scola's been the best one. Not starting in 100% of leagues yet. I don't think he's going to get to that level, but he should be starting in the majority of leagues, especially this coming week when they have a lot of games.
All right, let's talk about the situation with the Bulls. John Salmon's playing for the Bulls, not good for Luol Deng or his fantasy owners.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great way to put it. The fact that they've made this trade now, we figured that it would impact the wing players because you look at Luol Deng, Ben Gordon, Kirk Heinrich now playing a role. Obviously, Derrick Rose is going to get the start at point guard, but John Salmon is going to be a guy off the bench that's going to take away minutes from Luol Deng. You've seen this sort of happen to Deng in the last couple of years with Andres Nocioni. Now it's going to be John Salmons going forward. They still have to work Brad Miller into the mix as well, so he's not really becoming that much of a factor. Tyrus Thomas obviously playing well, so he's going to be the power forward there, Joakim Noah. So it's sort of getting a lot of guys minutes, and that's really affecting Luol Deng. You've seen his minutes decrease now in the few games that they've had since the trade. John Salmon's really taking away minutes in the fourth quarter, so Luol Deng's production is going to decrease a little bit, and that's why he's a sit this week.
All right, let's talk about your guards, and we'll get to the sitting guards in just a minute. and you got to watch this. But let's talk about Nate Robinson, Nate the Great, as you would say.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, since the dunk contest, he's really taken it to a new level, averaging almost 30 points per game, 6 rebounds, 5 assists. That's LeBron James numbers. I mean, when you talk about LeBron James, obviously the best fantasy option, best basketball player in the league, Nate Robinson putting up numbers right there with him. Now, this is something that we didn't expect when the season started. Mike D'Antoni's system with the Knicks has really allowed Nate Robinson to flourish. You know, even the trade so far for Larry Hughes hasn't hurt Nate Robinson at all. I don't think it's going to going forward. You just look at the way this guy is playing right now. Imagine if he was 6'5". He's under 6 feet tall. He's dunking over Dwight Howard. He's using Dwight Howard as a prop. He's using the rest of the league as a prop right now, and definitely start him in your fantasy league. Using the rest of the league as a prop a lot of times is this guy on this next list. I'm talking about Kobe Bryant. When I read over these notes, we exchanged notes before the video, I'm thinking, Kobe Bryant, no, you meant to start him, right? Sit him. Why, Jamie? Well, a couple reasons. You know, I think you look at Kobe Bryant.
I'm
listening. I hope you're listening. Kobe Bryant coming into the scoring period, as you see there, only 2 games. Same thing with Kevin Martin, only 2 games. So that's going to be a reason why you sit these guys, because unless you're in leagues where you're talking about averages, if you're in leagues where total points, Kobe's not going to get you the points that you expect. The second part of it is who they're playing. They're playing Memphis and Minnesota this week. We've seen Kobe Bryant come into games, and especially with the way the Lakers are playing right now with Lamar Odom, Paul Gasol, they're getting contributions off the bench from Sasha Vujacic. You see Jordan Farmar playing well. You know, I just think you're going to see Kobe Bryant not have to do too much heavy lifting in games where they're going to win easily. You know, we saw him take apart Phoenix on Thursday night. Kobe had 22 points. That's not exactly Kobe Bryant type numbers. 22 points, so you're going to take that most weeks. When you're talking about a player like Kobe Bryant, a lot of people can't afford to sit him. We're talking to a very few specific people in different fantasy leagues at this point. But I think the safe option with a player like Kobe and maybe some of the other Lakers, sit them this week because you're going to see the star players not put up huge stats. All right, I'm going to see a star player on Monday night. I'm going to see LeBron my first time. I'm pretty excited. Thanks, Jamie. Thank you for watching. Keep Professor Shehadi.
Right here, Professor Eisenberg. I'm Lauren Shehadi, Jamey Eisenberg. See you guys later.